Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is set to end the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, as well as creator George Lucas. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, what's really exciting about Episode 9 is that we do know that this film is going to provide many different twists and turns that will lead to saga-wide implications in the Skywalker saga. That's really going to change how we view the past 8 Star Wars movies, which, like I've always said before in the past, could very well be a good or a bad thing depending on how it's going to be executed and organized onto the big screen and how it's really going to resonate with Star Wars fans around the world. And that is one goal that they really do have to accomplish. It has to resonate with fans to really make these twists and turns really work. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very exciting for Episode 9. Now, specifically, it's actually described that a description of both Luke and Rey sitting in front of each other inside of the Prime Jedi Temple toward the end of the second act of the film, where it's explained that Luke is unveiling certain truths about his past life to Rey that serve as a lesson about the dark and the light. It's explained that Luke reveals to Rey that during his time on Ahch-To, Luke would feel a dark and sinister presence on the island, as if something was watching over him trying to lure him to the dark side. It's described that in secret this was Palpatine's Sith Wraith all along. However, Luke does not know this. Luke does explain to Rey that the power felt familiar yet different, and it was the power that led Luke to the mirror cave below the island, as seen in The Last Jedi. It said that Palpatine's Sith Wraith was the one responsible for Luke discovering the mirror cave and studying the ways of the dark side to understand its power and why those in desperation lose their way. Luke reveals to Rey that that power felt overwhelming and that it was one of the reasons as to why he closed himself off from the Force. Luke explains that this came with a sacrifice since he would no longer be able to communicate with his masters Yoda, Obi-Wan, and his father Anakin. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, we do know that Episode 9 is going to really take many different risks, as well as introducing many different twists and turns to really shock the audience and change our view of the past 8 Star Wars movies. Now, in this particular scenario, we have a moment in which Luke's Force Ghost is reaching out to Rey when she is in the Prime Jedi Temple. Let's talk about the Prime Jedi Temple quick. Now, we actually saw the symbol of the Prime Jedi within the first Jedi Temple in The Last Jedi inside of that cave. You got a brief glimpse of it where, a couple of raindrops are just dropping on top of it. Very interesting indeed. And now we're going to finally be able to see the actual Prime Jedi Temple itself in The Rise of Skywalker within the Lost City. And within all of this, we do know that there's a moment in which Luke unveils to Rey this dark secret of his that he has kept locked away for many years within himself, related to a dark and sinister presence that was hovering over Luke during his time on Ahch-To, and that this was in secret Palpatine all along, Palpatine's Sith Wraith, reaching out to Skywalker, and he was the one directly responsible for luring Luke down to the mirror cave on, of course, Ahch-To. It's one of the main reasons as to why Luke even knows about the mirror cave on that island of Ahch-To. Now, the great thing about this is that it is pretty much progressive. Luke doesn't really know exactly what, or who this really is. He says it's a familiar power, yet at the same exact time, he doesn't really know who or what it really is. And in secret, it really is indeed Palpatine. Now, he's able to hide his identity most likely because he's in the form of a Sith spirit over in the spiritual realm, somewhat coming through into the mortal world. And this pretty much alludes to the original idea for The Last Jedi of a Sith ghost visiting Luke Skywalker while he was meditating inside of his hut. You can actually see this in the art book of The Last Jedi. You can already see now where J.J. Abrams is getting all of this from. So, on the island of Ahch-To, we do know that Luke went through many different, phases, phases of doubt and, regret and all these different things, and even studying through the ways of both the light and the dark and learning both sides in order to truly understand exactly what's really going on with the Force itself. Now, we also know that Luke experimented with, of course, studying the wills and everything related to the Journal of the Wills that are actually stored within the tree library, which now, of course, Rey owns inside of her backpack. So Palpatine being the one responsible for also closing Luke Skywalker off from the Force, and how that came with a sacrifice of Luke losing touch with Yoda, Obi-Wan, and his father Anakin, I think is a very interesting revelation. I really do find that to be very clever by J.J. Abrams and George Lucas and Chris. The fact that they are trying to really reshape how we view Luke Skywalker's isolation on Ahch-To, on that sacred island, and why he really closed himself off from the Force, or at least one of the reasons as to why he closed himself off from the Force, how they're adding on to that, I think is a very interesting thing and a step in the right direction to really reshaping the character of Skywalker. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.